the business owners, the communities that make this region such a special place to live. I'm a lifelong Pennsylvanian. I've never lived anywhere else. I was raised here in Butler County, and my entire family still lives here, including both of my brothers and my mother. My father would too, God rest his soul. And my family go to business here in Butler. And in 1898, and it's actually still operating today. This community is not just where I live, it's part of who I am. I went fishing in Silver Rock as a kid. I went to school in Butler. I'm raising my family in Cranberry. I go to church here. My business is located right here in Cranberry. A lot of people didn't know that because the name of the business is just for a business exchange, but it is just walking distance from this building. I've created jobs here. I'm a husband, father, business owner. Somebody who spent most of my adult life building organizations, creating opportunities, and bringing people together to solve problems. Some big, some small. My wife Kimberly and I are raising two absolutely beautiful children right here in this district, and our son Maverick has special needs. Our daughter Annie is one of the brightest, most energetic, and unbelievable children I've ever met in my life. One day I looked at them, I realized something pretty simple here, and I will tell you that the decisions being made in Harrisburg are going to shape their future, their education, their opportunities, their cost of living, and whether or not they're going to stay here or move to North Carolina, performing a little bit better economically. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines anymore. Matter of fact, I decided to run in the first place was Maverick, my son, who taught me everything a parent needs to know about children being different, every single one of them. Every child learns differently, grows differently, thrives differently, and that's why sports choice and parental involvement in education. I believe parents do what's best for their kids, but this can't be so much more than just education. As a businessman, I'm so frustrated with the waste and the fraud and the mismanagement of political games that continue in Pennsylvania and other states and nationally. And while other working families are struggling with rising taxes, rising costs, growing frustration. And you know what? People in this district work hard. We work really hard here. They sacrifice. We play by the rules. They deserve a government that respects that. I got into business to build things. And I got into business to create jobs, to serve people, to earn trust. And that's exactly the mindset I'm going to take to Harrisburg. That's what I'm about. Because public service should never become self-service. I'm not running to be a career politician. I'm running for the future of District 12 to help ensure that our children and our grandchildren inherit a Pennsylvania that's stronger, safer, more affordable. And I would be honored to earn your trust and get your vote on May 19th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Ethan, for joining us tonight. Thank you for the Butler County Republic Committee for hosting the event. And as I said last week, thank you to my wife, 36 years off, for sitting in the audience. And appreciate the support. As I said in our last forum, I'm a self-made man. I get that from my father. He insisted on that. I'm a graduate of Miami University. I have a degree in aeronautics. I'm a graduate of the Disney University. That's where I've been taught. And I have a degree in customer service. As I've said on my website and my bio, I'm an Air Force pilot. I graduated at the top of my class in Air Force pilot training. My first assignment was as an instructor pilot. And so when people ask me about my job, once again, I like to say, essentially I'm just a blue collar glorified Uber driver that moves people from A to B, and I just do it in a really cool airplane. I've raised my entire family here, other than my time on active duty and in military service. We've spent our whole life in Butler County. My children have grown up here. They are now raising their children and my grandchildren here, and we love everything about it. The truth of the matter is, we've spent the last several weeks trying to talk about the differences between two candidates. And really what the selection comes down to is a choice between two resumes. I believe that my resume from college to Walt Disney World, to the Air Force, to war, to civilian life, to being a small business owner myself, employing dozens of people, maybe this is what differentiates us. That's for you to decide. One thing that struck me was in our last forum, one of the things that Ethan said that caught my attention was he said that he needed to stay agnostic in some of his decisions with respect to his business. And I appreciate that. But since I'm a self-funded candidate and I answer only to the voters, I'm free to be the passionate, fierce conservative that I've always been. Moreover, when you see examples of someone willing to fight strongly for this way of life, You know, and Florida is a good example. You can take a location that maybe is shifting a little bit to the middle and turn it proudly red. I'm not interested in compromising our values and the values of this community as we shift towards the murky middle. I want to keep the needle in Butler County strongly back to the right. And additionally, not just my resume, but my life, which includes seeing the entire world, enduring and surviving combat, and understanding that many don't share the common values that we have in Butler County. We need to challenge them. I want to make sure that we don't turn Butler County into Allegheny County. And lastly, in serving this district, and you'll pardon the airplane analogies, that's how I talk. Look, I'm level-headed. I'm not prone to rash decisions. If you're at 45,000 feet, your engine explodes. You need a captain that calmly knows what to do, follows the checklist, and puts the airplane back on the ground. The hotter it gets, the cooler I get. Um, Tough, sober decisions, but I believe I'm well suited to serve this district, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question will be a 3 minute response. Scott will go first, and then there will be a follow-up question. So Scott will go first and then followed by Ethan. So the question is, one of the main problems in politics, and the Republican Party is no exception, is that the political goals of the donors and the lobbyists are at odds with the political goals of the voters. How will you manage in conflict between voters and your donors or lobbyists? Scott, 3 minutes.
You know, as a fiscal conservative, I've I've always hated the money that flows in politics, and I think far too often that money, especially long term, tends to corrupt the career politician that's supposedly meant to help. And quite frankly, that's why Don and I are spending our own money on this campaign. As I said before, and I'll continue to probably say, we're spending our dollars, not asking anybody else for their dollars. I think it would be the height of hypocrisy for me to ask somebody for a donation. I haven't done that once in this campaign. And moreover, when you get used to spending other people's money, it's pretty easy to spend frivolously, recklessly, because quite frankly, you have no skin in the game. We've certainly seen how politicians spend other people's money in California and New York and places like that. If you oppose money and the wastefulness it leads to in the political process, I mean, you have a rare opportunity in this particular case to vote for a candidate who leads by example, who's got my own skin in the game and my wife's skin in the game. You know, as we were starting this, she was saying to me, can't we afford this? And these are honest questions that any married couple should have. And as I pointed out to her, you know, 401ks and retirement, overrated. You know, let's worry focus on the here and now. And this is important to us. It's important to us as a family. And so, you know, I think that's a contrast and a distinction. I think money does in fact for politics. I think answering donors is a real thing. I said it last week. I continue to believe it, and I'll continue to say it. If somebody gives you $100, that's a donation. If a business gives you thousands of dollars and that business isn't located in Butler County, if it's outside money, I think that's an investment, and those investors are looking for a return on investment. I answer to the voters. I answer to the people here. Nobody can influence me. Nobody can corrupt me. Nobody can buy me. That's what bringing your own money to the table does. And that's my thoughts on the outside fundraising.
Thank you, Scott. Ethan, 3 minutes.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, and I can appreciate that you're self-funded. I also am funded.
You may have to take your butt.
Sorry, excuse me. How's that?
Good.
Okay. What I'm saying was that's an interesting perspective. I don't know many people who get into politics that don't understand that the importance of listening to your voters is the first step, and giving your allegiance to 100% to them, not your donors. Second thing is fundraising. If you don't know how to fundraise, it's a death sentence in politics. It's literally, you're a dead man walking. To say that fundraising is not important, or that you're not getting fundraising or requesting donors from other people, is in politics, I think, kind of absurd. I mean, if you're not good at raising money for a campaign, then how are you gonna run for reelection? How are you gonna help your colleagues in Harrisburg? I don't report to anybody. I've made a lot of money in my life. I've been broke twice. And I told myself I would never be broke again. Will tell you this. I will be taken when I get this position. A 70% pay cut to go to Harrisburg. I've invested $110,000 of my own money, probably just like you, Scott, to reinvest into my business so that that business can stay afloat and I can train the people properly to take my position when I lead this district into the future where it belongs. Donations are essential. And I've helped hundreds and thousands of business owners in Pittsburgh, 13 counties, and all over this entire region. I've helped make introductions, sell businesses, mergers. I've helped people make new friends, make the account of the year to hit their numbers. I've helped so many people. It's no wonder when I say, hey, I'm running for office. Would you like to be a part of this? It's not even a question. I go to my mailbox and it is full of envelopes. These are $10 donations. These are $50 donations. These are $100 donations. And you know what? Some people believe me, and it's so much. I was fortunate enough to get several $5,000 donations. I'm not being bought. I'm soliciting funds from my network so that I can win this race, win for you, represent you. This is an uphill battle. I'm not using fundraising. I'm not going to get up here and say I'm self-funding this. Yeah, I have a ton of skin in the game. So much so. But to use that self-funding concept as a reason to run and as an actual, I don't know, good, it's not a good thing. And Scott, it's not from my fundraising, it's come from personal phone calls and just letting people know that I'm running for office. And I'm proud to say that you've done very well. In fact, we've done so well, we're at the forefront of what we consider to be unreasonably exceptional for fundraising for anybody in my position. I'm proud of it. I will not apologize for fundraising. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to serve. And in order to win, you need to fundraise. And that's exactly what I intend to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up question. Scott first. Will you be filing your cycle 2 campaign committee report, which is due on Friday, May 8th?
Well, I don't need 3 minutes for this, so, but let me take 30 seconds to just quickly say, I am alive and well in this campaign, and I like my position, and I like where we stand. So to suggest that choosing not to fundraise is a death sentence is just flat out wrong. It's not that I'm unable to fundraise. I choose not to fundraise. I choose to lead by example and put my money first. And I assure you, if that was important to me and I felt like I needed it to win, I would be as successful at that as I am, as I've been at everything in life. With regards to the financial reports on May 8th, yes, and mine will be very short because I'm trying to think if I've accepted any checks. No, my mother forced me to take one, but I don't think I've cashed it. But other than that, it's me as Donna. And so, yes, our reports will be filed and everybody will be able to see if I've collected any money.
Thank you. Again, the follow-up questions are a minute long. So, okay.
Could you restate the question?
Yeah. Will you be filing your cycle 2 campaign finance report due on Friday, May the 8th?
Absolutely. In fact, it's already done, signed, sealed, and delivered. All I need to do is follow up tomorrow and we're all set. Everything will be disclosed. You're going to open up. This is down paying consent that we've raised. And delighted that we've been following the rules since the beginning. Even though we're signing petitions and people who weren't registered as Republicans offer to sign my petition, I do this ethically and honestly from the very second I stepped out there. That has led in finance. I'm say we're on top of it. And everything's accounted for, so that'll be submitted tomorrow.
Thank you. Next question. This is a 2 minutes, and this will go to Ethan first. Fiscal conservatism. You both claim on your mailers that I have in front of me to be fiscal conservatives. What does that mean to you? And please provide us with examples that are specific to that. 2 minutes, Ethan.
Fiscal conservatism is pretty simple. I can chalk it up to one statement, and that is spending money like it's your own money when you're in government. One of the things that I've learned in this campaign is to be very careful with how I spend campaign funds, because that isn't just a gift, that is an honor that should be respected. I watch a lot of people, and I've worked with some institutions which know how to spend money very freely just because it's not their money. Every single politician, every single elected official from the local, state, federal, county, I'm telling you, they need to start spending their money like it's their own. And I will tell you, if they did, we wouldn't be in any tax situation that would require raised taxes. We have surplus. Fiscal conservatism is just simply being responsible with your money. I learned from a friend of mine, Marty, which God rest his soul, is the financial game is actually kind of fun once you get used to it, once you understand it. It's called just don't spend more money than what you make. And it should be the same for the government. You shouldn't be spending money that you don't have. Right now, Governor Shapiro has raised the budget, proposed the budget for 2026, 2027. It's $53.3 million. 10 years ago, it was half that. He's banking on people spending money, he's banking on marijuana getting passed and the legalization of gambling in order to cover the cost of something that isn't even passed yet, that won't get passed, and who's going to get stuck with the bill? You are, we are, we all are, our children. It's disgusting. My father taught me to be responsible with money ever since I had the allowance of $2 a week whenever I was taking out the trash. When I carry his values forward and my fiscal conservatism all the way to Harrisburg. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
Fiscal conservatism is not just words, it's actions. And, I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up, but if we're going to talk about it, why not? I think once again in this campaign, we've seen a contrast. Yes, you want to spend other people's money like it's your own money, and you want to do it reasonably, appropriately, and not excessively. That's a statement that we all agree with. But then you look at actions. I think 2 yard signs on a corner makes a good statement. I think when I put a yard sign up and it's surrounded by 10 yard signs paid for by other people's money, I think that's also a statement. And I think that's an example of using other people's money, perhaps frivolously, a little excessively. 10 to 15 yards, some large yard signs throughout the district, I think is good. Hit all the main roads, let everybody see your name. 200 of them around the district with solar powered lights paid for by other people's money, I think is an example of maybe how tax dollars would be spent. So yes, fiscal conservatives, I think we all agree on the issue, but when it comes down to the execution, that just simply might be an example of the contrast between the two candidates.
Thank you very much. We're going to continue down this road of taxes. Again, based on your mailers. It was funny when I was researching the word tax. The root has many different roots, but the actual tax came from back in the days of Caesar, and they were paid as tribulations. So pay Caesar what is Caesar's was a famous line Jesus had told us. So taxes. Continuing with our discussion of fiscal conservatism, people say that they want to reduce or eliminate the inheritance tax, the gas tax, turnpike tolls, the income tax, property taxes, on and on and on. If you could pick only one tax to eliminate, which would it be and why? This is a 2-minute answer, and Scott will be first.
I think the one that resonates most within the and I certainly wouldn't put words in Ethan's mouth necessarily. We might even agree on this, but the inheritance and the death tax would certainly be number one on my priority, followed secondly by the Tom Corbett gas tax hikes. But let's take it a step further. If you want to be a responsible representative, you can't just simply talk about cutting taxes because you're taking revenue away from the state. So that begs the question, if you want to reduce revenue in the state, are you also suggesting that revenue be replaced by another income stream or perhaps even another tax? I'm certainly not. If we're going to reduce taxes, and we should, we also need to reduce the size of government. We have to reduce waste and fraud. For example, does anyone here in the room and maybe watching online know exactly how many commissions, boards, councils, advisory groups, or regulatory agencies there are in Pennsylvania? I mean, that would be a heck of a way of reducing spending. The governor's office alone, by my calculation, manages over 6,000 appointments to these boards and commissions. You know, if you average 12 to 15 members per board, that's over 400 right there. Professional and occupational licensing boards, 29 of those, 20 to 30 commissions and councils. The list is exhausting. So maybe we should be talking about reducing the size of the government in Pennsylvania to help with the tax cuts that I'm proposing. Another area that we can address. Look at the fraud that's happening around the United States, even right next door in Ohio right now. A good red state. They're having massive issues with fraud with respect to Medicare and Medicaid. So if that's happening next door in a red state like Ohio, what are the odds that it's happening here under 8 or 12 years of Tom Wolf and Josh Shapiro? There's opportunities to reduce our spending. As I've always said, Pennsylvania doesn't have a tax problem, it has a spending problem. And so in addition to these tax cuts, we need to rein in our out of control spending.
Thank you. Ethan.
What I do feel fortunate about this type of campaign is that Scott and I do agree on a lot of things. I believe actually writing a clean campaign based on merit and hard work and values and not throwing each other under the bus or running negative campaign ads. It has been an absolute delight. Scott, you're giving me a run for my money, and I've worked harder than I've ever worked for. I'm going to hand it to you, but I will tell you, if I were to get in there and if I were to have a voice in what we would focus on as far as lowering taxes, what I learned was, after traveling to Harrisburg since our last meeting, I convened with 14 other people that were running for office in primaries and also in the general super unopposed. And I wanted to know all of my issues and how they compared to the other issues that they were experiencing. Because Pennsylvania's broken up to Scranton, Philadelphia, Speaker of the House is from the South Side. We've got a minority whip who's from Washington. We've got people from Erie, and then we've got people from Butler. And what I learned is that addressing the death tax as soon as you get in there is virtually impossible, because that's 1.8 to 2.8 billion dollars that you can't just fix. That's going to take time. So the inheritance tax, you start with farmers first. You say, hey, farmers, you don't have to pay taxes on the land that has to go on to your kids. Then you start with somebody else. Slow by slow, you got rid of the inheritance tax over time. Property tax, that's a nightmare to address. You can't do it overnight. You can do it over time. We shouldn't be renting our homes from the government. It's absurd. We should own. Other states do it. We should do it too. Here's what I would do. If you can. One thing that I would do as far as lower taxes is something that's simple, achievable, that would be easy to do. That's lowering the gas tax. You see, Pennsylvania has one of the highest gas taxes in the entire country. And people were asking a fair question. If we're paying the same as some of the highest taxes in America, why are we still dodging potholes every day? I mean, these computers and contractors, and they're just having to deal with this. And those costs add up very quickly. As I conclude, the one thing that many residents may not realize is a portion of the Pennsylvania fuel tax revenue goes to something called the Municipal Liquid Fuels Program. With that, we can lower this tax burden. And we need to take a serious look at lowering those gas tax burdens and providing accountability, because, I mean, Pennsylvania drivers, they deserve better than paying premium price for average results, period.
Thank you very much. This will be a 1-minute follow-up question and along with taxes. And Ethan, you go first with this follow-up. So the question is, as a freshman representative, District 12, if you're not on the proper committee or caucus for cutting taxes, how will you fulfill your promises back here in our district of lowering our taxes? 1 minute.
Okay. Well, here's where my fellow Republicans might not appreciate what I'm going to say. I don't like being told what to do. I can be persuaded, but it has to be common sense. It has to be in the best interests of our voters and our residents. I learned recently on my trip to Harrisburg that Democrats all vote the exact same way. When it comes to dudes walking into ladies' bathrooms, they all voted, all 101 said, yeah, that's fine. That's not fine. I would have a problem if I was a Democrat with that issue. I'm going to have problems with my fellow Republicans if they make me vote a certain way that I just don't believe it. Now, granted, I know most Republicans have a lot of common sense. And that situation probably doesn't come up a whole lot. But I'd be willing to bet that 95 to 98% of the time, I'm gonna be right in line with our predecessors, how they voted, how I'm gonna vote. And I'm gonna do my best to take tax burdens off of our residents, off of our voters, and keep order without having to compromise my decision making by following suit every single person that's telling me what to do. I'm an independent person in that fashion. And again, 98 to 95% of the time, I'll be in line with Republicans all the time.
Thank you.
Back down, and if no strength, right now, the Republicans in the House are in the minority. And so that's actually an opportunity as a freshman representative to take advantage of time. Because when you're in the majority, you're expected to get stuff done. We're in the minority, we're expected there to be a check against Josh Shapiro and his ridiculous policies. So you take advantage of those times in the minority, and that's where you make relationships, you network, you find people that agree with you on the issues. So that when the glorious day comes that we're back in the majority, then you can start to advance the things you care about. And maybe you're not there long enough that you're the top dog of the best committees. But you try to be humble enough and you go to the chairman of that committee and say, I know this is my idea, but I don't have the juice to get it across the finish line. You take it, you run with it. I'll be a good soldier for you. I don't care about the credit. I care about results. I don't care about getting my picture in the newspaper. I care about lowering the tax burden for the citizens of this district. And I think that's the way you do it.
Thank you. This next question now, moving away from taxes. Has come up in many of my conversations with people on the street. And also in several of these different mailers that I have received. It is on regulation. This will be a 3-minute response. Ethan, you'll go first. And it will talk about regulation. So the question is, a common talking point of Republicans is to reduce regulation. What specific state control regulation or mandate would you support reducing? 2 minutes.
That's an excellent question. So, as a pro-business person, as a person who operates an organizational company that has 35,000 members and subscribers, one of the most hot topics I can say would be corporate net income tax. What a lot of people in this room may not understand is you might not own a business, you might work for a business. So allow me to just offer a brief education on what that means. Businesses had a 9.9% tax burden on them with corporate net income tax, and successfully through bipartisan legislation, the Republicans and the Democrats were able to lower that to about 7%. Sadly, that's not good enough. We went from the worst, second or third worst in the country to like, I don't know, 6 or 7, don't quote me on the actual numbers, but it's not good. We have trillions of dollars, I learned, trapped in Europe with car manufacturing companies in Norway and Sweden. And we're trying, and these are companies based in the United States that are operating over there, and they want to come back and they want to invest here in the United States. And what's happening is after they've already paid everybody taxes over there, they want to come to Pennsylvania and invest here. But guess what? We want 10% of what you already paid taxes on. I think that that's hogwash. You wonder why North Carolina is so economically well right now is because they lowered theirs to about 2.8%, which is awesome. So you wonder why Amazon and all these other companies are moving to other states because Pennsylvania just isn't that great. We're okay. We're better than we were. Now, one of the legislation things that happened that I really also appreciate in that bill passed was the fact that now people can write off 100% of their research and development right here in Pennsylvania. It's unbelievable. And that bill has a lot of stuff in there that has allowed us as Pennsylvanians to be more successful, more competitive. We need to do more. We have so much more work to do. And as Scott said, being in the minority, that's going to be hard work. That's why this election matters so much. We need somebody in there that understands these issues, that has relationships with the other people that are already serving, that has written grants, that has received grants, that has worked for economic development in an institution, even if it's higher education, or in the gas and oil industry, which I have experience in as a consultant. You know, I probably should have done a better job of explaining who I am and what I do at the beginning, because my resume is 5 pages long. And a lot of it's actively serving other people, growing businesses, consulting, working with people to bring these changes, make these policies stronger, be more competitive here in the United States, and especially in Pennsylvania. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. Scott, 3 minutes.
One of the unique experiences, and I should say unique, a lot of people have had this experience, is Don and I were small business owners in the community. We owned the Bocelli Pizza in Cranberry for several years. We sold that, and then we opened a Cajun restaurant called J Gumbo's, which was open for 5 years across from my Giant Eagle on Route 19. And I can tell you that as a small business owner, and I suspect if there were any small business owners in the room, if you ask this question, if you needed an ally in Pennsylvania or you needed help from the state, did you look to the state and thought that they were a boon to your business, or they were there to help you succeed, to help you remove barriers to your success, to help you create an environment where you could grow your business, or were they just simply there to be very onerous and to put up roadblocks that prevent you from being successful as you needed to be? Learn a lot of hard lessons. Every education comes with a price. When you're a small business owner starting out, you learn pretty quickly that the state of Pennsylvania, quite frankly, is not an ally to small business. And we've created an environment that makes it difficult to succeed, difficult to grow, which is why we're probably losing population, which is why people are fleeing to other localities and other states, because they have a better opportunity to be successful. I can give you a perfect example. Now, this didn't apply to me specifically, but if you want to talk about a specific regulation, let's talk about liquor licenses in Pennsylvania. The fact that the state likes to limit the number of liquor licenses in a given district, as a result, there's a secondary market. And so if I wanted to open up a bar, which I don't, but let's say I did, the price of a liquor license these days, last I heard, was somewhere around $350,000 to $400,000 on the secondary market. And nobody can afford those because who's been buying them? Corporations, Giant Eagle, and Sheets, right? Every time a distributor goes out of business or a liquor license comes up available, they come in there with their unlimited resources and buy it, and they pocket it so that they can put a Get-Go or a Sheets right next to the Mars Middle School. And we can have alcohol and tobacco being sold right next to our kids' education. So if you want to talk about a specific example, I think that's one, yeah, we should probably take a look at. A license is a license, and if you want to be in that business, why should Giant Eagle have a greater advantage over a small mom and pop shop? I disagree with that.
Thank you. Now, taxes, we pretty much put those to bed. We're able to do something a little bit lighter on this question. This is a 2-minute response. And Scott, you will go first. Which U.S. congressman or senator do you most admire, and would you model your legislative career after? And it cannot be a governor, since you're running for a legislative office and not an executive office. 2 minutes, Scott.
It's challenging these days to come up with a name for that. And I'm gonna disagree with you just a little bit. I apologize for the premise of the question. But if there was somebody I looked up to in government recently over the last 20 years, maybe this is an odd choice. But I would say Justice Scalia to the Supreme Court. And I know you asked for elected representative, but and here's why. When you're in this business, where you're in politics, when you're in the office of trying to get something accomplished, you have to work with people that you strongly disagree with. And what his example showed me and taught me and inspired me was, I'm sure everybody in this room knows, who was his best friend on the Supreme Court? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Somebody who was completely opposite him in ideology and temperament, but off the court, they were the very best of friends. And he famously said in an interview once, they asked him that question, how can you be social and friends and work with somebody who disagrees with you, like that? And the answer is, you debate the issue, not the person. And that's a lesson I learned early on. That's a lesson I carry with me to this day. when I disagree with somebody, I don't look at them and point my finger and I say, and they'll say, you're wrong. When you tell somebody you're wrong, they're gonna dig in and you're not gonna be able to change their mind. But when you say to them, I disagree with the premise of your argument, have you considered this? Have you looked at it from this perspective? Then you can have an intelligent conversation. I find that to be productive. I find that to be inspiring. And so if you ask me for someone that I'd like to emulate, I'd really like to emulate the thought process of Justice Scalia on how we work and try to find solutions with people that, the only one that agrees with me 100% is me. That's the truth of it. And so, so how do you work with people that don't agree with you 100%? You have to debate the issue, not the person.
Big issue.
Okay. So we'll modify this question, to say you as a congressman, senator, or Supreme Court justice.
Thanks. I apologize.
I think this is great. This is a testament to Scott's ability to pivot, and I'm gonna take advantage of that as well, because I think that the first county executive of Alameda County we ever had, Mr. James Roddy, Jim Roddy, who's one of the best and most exceptional leaders we ever had in this region. Matter of fact, I worked at the karaoke at the convention center, and I took a huge loss because I wanted to honor him at the biggest, best venue in Pittsburgh. We needed to rent out the entire convention center to honor him. And guess what? It rained that day. We moved it inside. We had 500 people show up from all walks of life because this guy was the exemplified the art of civil discourse, of being able to disagree with your opponent, yet get things done. The ability to compromise, the ability to walk into a heated room and kind of settle things down with a huge sense of humor. This guy knew how to take laughter and humor to disarm anybody. And I gotta tell you, we started Jim Roddy Leadership Award because of that. And when I was asked to speak at his celebration of life by the Chancellor of Pitt at the time, I had the honor of speaking about him. One of the things that I'll tell you, I was the last person to have a conversation with him when he was in St. Barnabas. I was holding his hand. I was talking to him. I brought a BLT. Fried over to him. I didn't know he was in that bad shape because I wanted to say thanks. 2 weeks prior to that, I actually gave him his badge. Maybe it's because I knew he was on his way out. But I have the fortunate pleasure of not only talking about Jim and carrying his unique way of communicating with people forward for decades to come. I had an opportunity to spend his last moments with him at St. Barnabas when he took his last breaths. And for that, I'm so grateful. His legacy will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question will be a 3-minute question. Ethan, you will start this question first. And the question is, as stated, at the last candidates forum, there was some discussion about data centers. In areas where farms have proliferated, the major concerns are increasing costs of utilities for those living in the area, impacting safety of the water supply, reliability of the electrical grid, and public financing through loans and tax incentives for developers. What types of regulations would you support building data centers in Pennsylvania, if any?
Thank you. Data centers was something that I didn't expect to come out at the last meeting. I am for data centers, but I will tell you, there's a lot of things that need to be in place before we even break ground. I mean, data centers equal artificial intelligence, and that equals Pennsylvania's future. Data centers and artificial intelligence are becoming one of the biggest issues in Pennsylvania, and they're real dangerous. There's some absolute dangers with water pollution, noise, farmland, environmental. It could be really bad if it's not done correctly. There's no doubt about that. There are real opportunities too. If we get it wrong, it can hurt communities. If we get it right, it can be one of the greatest economic things that happen in Western Pennsylvania in decades, maybe even as big as Marcellus Shale. I'm passionate about this, and I'm going to explain it in plain English because a lot of people don't understand artificial intelligence. I didn't until about a year ago. Whether people realize it or not, it's becoming part of everyday life. Right now, Check Jack is monitoring every word that I say from his iPhone. That's being transcribed, being sent out to the internet, being controlled by cloud computing. All of you in this room have an iPhone for Droid in your pocket, which is using so much energy. If you use ChatGPT today or Google something or turn it on your TV, the broadcast that we're using right now, every time somebody uses that, it goes through a data center. These facilities are massive. Some of the largest data centers use significant amount of electricity, and they need thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of gallons for cooling systems, and that's gonna really bother people when they think about that. So we have to ask questions about: will this raise my electric bill? Will this strain our infrastructure? Will it affect our water supply? Will it create noise? Will it hurt our quality of life? These are all concerns. But if it's done irresponsibly, it could be a huge bad deal for Pennsylvania. I don't support greedy corporations coming to our state, consuming massive amount of resources. The energy community is driving up energy costs and then walking away with billions in profits. That's bogus. Right now, because of the Green New Deal and all these other things, somewhere in northern Pennsylvania, there are miles and miles of square feet of 100-year-old trees being cleared as quickly as possible because the deadline is at the end of this year. So they can build solar panels. That's right. The biggest carbon absorbers in the world are being flattened so greedy people can take advantage of these huge, massive amounts of money that they received from that deal during a failed administration under Biden to build these huge glass fields. You know what they do? They use pesticides to kill the weeds around them. It's terrible for the environment. You want to talk about irresponsible? That's irresponsible. That's why guardrails matter. I would put up so many guardrails that it will be impossible for a squirrel or any kind of issue or person, noise complaint to actually, because it's going to be done responsibly. We need reasonable zoning, infrastructure, energy generation, responsible environmental protection. And I talked to this guy. This is when I was in Harrisburg, as I wrap up. There's this gentleman from Missouri County who's running for office that has Amazon Web Services downtown in his backyard. And they're creating construction jobs, permanent technical jobs, infrastructure, business growth, restaurant growth, housing, tax revenue, and there's unlimited benefits. But the key is he's doing it responsibly. There are regulations. I'm sick and tired of losing to Ohio. We need to start eliminating the red tape, but we got to do it in regions that don't affect. I don't want a data center in my backyard. I don't even know if I want one in District 12. For goodness sakes, we need to find responsible places to put them and start competing with China, or we're going to lose as a country, and we have the ability to create jobs right here in West Virginia. Racing, in reality, is now. It's not.
Thank you. Again, these responses are meant to be within a time limit, so I would just ask the candidates if they would respect the timekeeper. Thank you. Scott, do you need that? What's your repeat?
No, we're talking data centers. Maybe a good place to put them is Allegheny County. Seems to be some land out there. I know, we talked about this issue last week, and I initially said it was a complex issue, but to Ethan's point, and I agree. I mean, show of hands, who wants a data center next to their homes here in Butler County? I know I don't. One in the back. Right. There we go. I haven't talked to the CEOs of data companies. Don't need to. I'm a smart guy and I can do my own research. As I've said before, and as I said last week, I'm here to represent the citizens of this county, this district, and I want to look at all these issues through the lens of what is the best choice for the citizens of Butler County. It's an issue that needs to be looked at responsibly because there are some real negatives. As we said, the power consumption is exceedingly high. What they do to the water table for the cooling, that's a risk. The noise pollution, the buildings that are going to be built. So you're telling me we want to take beautiful farmland in this beautiful county and trees and cover it up with buildings that are simply shells to hold servers, because servers don't need architecture and they don't need anything that beautifies the environment. They just exist. And also nobody's explained to me well what the long-term prospects of data centers are. Now I'm space businesses like Elon Musk, but if you need something that requires massive amounts of power, requires massive amounts of cooling, and makes a lot of noise, doesn't that sound like something that's probably going to end up in space at some point, or even on the moon? So it's possible whoever builds these data centers 10 years down the road, you might be left with a big building that has no useful purpose because the business has moved elsewhere. So, you have to look at it responsibly. We have to look at it from all angles. There are some real negatives to it. There are some positives. Those need to be explored. And might I suggest maybe it's okay to trust the pilot with a technical background and an engineering degree to have an understanding about data centers and AI and make decisions on that. Um, and look, since we talked about it last week, I've got some other stuff that you've written this week, and I appreciate you saying that you're in support of data centers. I'm not there yet. I'm not opposed to them. I'm just not there yet. It's too much of an issue, and there's too many angles to come at it from. Um, I know what AI means. It certainly doesn't mean I'm all in on it, and I hope that that's not what you're saying you are. But if you're all in on data centers, I disagree. If you're all in on California big tech, I disagree. If you're all in on big energy, I disagree. I'm only all in for the people of this district, and I think that's what's most important. Thank you.
Okay, also necessary because there was a lot of conversation through there. So this will be a 1 minute follow-up. Ethan, if you are for data centers, and we know that and same thing, Scott, Ethan and Scott, if you're for data centers, so we know that that will be a hot topic, if one of you gets selected to go to Harrisburg. What type of areas would you favor allowing data centers to go to? A rural setting, suburban, or urban setting, or wherever they deem necessary? 1 minute.
Dr. Olson, I'm sorry, Alan, I heard yes, you got it. Okay, great. Are you asking me where they should be built?
Yeah, again, people were just curious, we're in Pennsylvania, they are going to be built. And so where would you favor those? There's a lot of vacant, office buildings in urban settings, suburban areas, or farmland. So, I think we just kind of want to know what your feelings are and where you want those to settle in.
So I have your report from the Pennsylvania Energy Innovation Institute, which is 22 pages long, which is extremely comprehensive about that. I've shared the link. I've had the opportunity to be privileged enough to go to the AI summit that was at Carnegie Mellon to meet with Senator McCormick when we discussed all these issues. So I know a little bit more about data centers than most. If I were to place them anywhere in Pennsylvania, certainly the one far from my home, because there is a little bit of noise, but it's not as bad as they keep saying. China is sending propaganda to leftist organizations to inform all of you how bad these things are, because guess what they want to win the AI battle. So if you're not really sure about data centers, or if you're leaning into the left saying this is going to hurt our farms, this is going to hurt our waterways, this is going to cause pollution, a lot of that's propaganda coming from China because they don't want to see us win. Other states are getting the business because they're investigating this matter responsibly. I would say we should place them far away from residents. We shouldn't destroy any of our environment. I'm all about conservation. How about we put them under some power lines in the middle of nowhere where you can't do anything with the land in the first place? Get them far away from residences, and farms, and forests as possible.
Thank you. Sorry.
As I said earlier, when we talk about the data centers and we agree that nobody wants to buy our homes, I mean, isn't that really what it drives down to? So where are we going to put it? And I do agree with Ethan when he says if they're going to be anywhere, okay, yes, we want them in the United States because we don't want China to win that. And that I agree with that absolutely as well. So where are we going to put it? Well, I mean, that really is the bottom line. If you don't want to buy your, we're going to have to make hard choices on where they're going to be. And so we do have empty buildings. We do have urban areas. We do have places that people don't want to live. And that clearly has to be one of the areas we would have to focus. Let's place them where the people aren't, so that's not a negative impact on the communities. It's, but that comes down to power, the infrastructure that goes with it. Again, not a simple solution. And so that's why I said previously, you can't just say yes or no. It's too big an issue. It's too complex an issue. And if we just simply rely on the fact that we don't want them in our backyard, that's fine. I think we all agree on that. But if they're going to be somewhere, they certainly should be in the United States. So yeah, Allegheny County, maybe Philadelphia. Yeah, that's it better with me.
Thank you. Enough, yeah, that's- So again, in both of your mailers, we have the ability to read about how you feel for school choice. And there's a feeling that you're both in favor of school choice. So this will be a 2-minute answer. Um, and Scott will go first. And the question is, what does school choice look like for you at the level of K through 8? And please only discuss K through 8 because I'm gonna have a follow-up question about this.
And I don't think we need to. I strongly favor school choice and it really needs to be nothing more than simply put, how much does Pennsylvania want to pay per student on an annual basis? And whatever that number is, I believe last year was $22,000 per student. I'd like to explore just simply giving parents a voucher for the agreed upon amount that they can spend in the best way possible. As I said last week, no parent knows better than themselves what their child needs. Competition with school choice will produce a better product, better choices, and give parents more opportunities to choose the best path for their children's development. Uh, I imagine if a family of 3 has, pick a number, if you want to go with the $66,000, it would do 22 per. But if a family of 3 had $66,000 in vouchers to spend annually, there might be some folks out there who want to get into that market and fund a product with their own money, private business, private equities, what you will, keep the government out of it, and produce a better system, a better school with better resources, and allow parents to choose. To me, that's what school choice means. It's very simple. It's very basic. We're not going to drill it down. We're not going to put a lot of hoops that you got to jump through. School choice means you have the resources. The state gives you the money that you earn, and you spend it as you see fit to provide the best education as possible for your kids.
Thank you.
There are 6 or 7 people in this room that have been to my home. And they've met my son Maverick, who has a syndrome, which has been devastating for our family, but we turned it into something magical. You know, somebody said something to me, I believe, goes like this. You've been given a gift because you're the type of parent that can handle a situation with a kid with special needs, and that's why you've been given Mallory. I know he's not going to grow up to be a scholarship winner. I know that he's not going to grow up without needing assistance with a lot of items. I know that he's going to be living with us until I pass away. His education is important to me. So I think having school choice is super important. My daughter Annie, who's on the opposite side, is one of the smartest kids I've ever met in my life. Right now, she's with my wife Kim at the musical practice, somewhere in Mars. And I tell you what, I could be more passionate about parents having the power to say what they're going to do with their money. 70% of people, 70% of homeschool children, excuse me, let me rephrase this. Since the pandemic, homeschooling has gone up by 70%. People are starting to realize that they have a choice. And Governor Shapiro and Pennsylvania Department of Education are pushing ideological agendas at schools that many parents never voted for. At school, they have clubs like Gender and Sexuality Advocacy Club. They have, frankly, I think they should do math, chess club. They have critical race theory that's being baked into agendas and curriculum. I mean, I don't know about you, but I want to have a choice of where my kids and my grandkids go if that's what we're going to be stuck with, having a blue state with Governor Shapiro, a controlled House, and hopefully not a controlled Senate. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna have a follow-up question now. This will be a 2-minute response to Scott first. The follow-up is at the high school level, there are some other things that can be done to make post-secondary education more affordable, such as permitting online college in high school as a replacement for high school classes, and increasing VOTEC opportunities in high school. What are your thoughts on these programs in context of school choice? 2 minutes.
I think when we're talking school choice, we have to be clear that we don't need to overlook the things you just mentioned, technical schools, trade schools, and incentives that maybe help promote those technical schools. I'm a believer in STEM. I know many people are, and I appreciate STEM as much as probably as anyone in the room. I'm a very technical kind of guy, but VOTEC, trade schools, VOAG, 4-H, these are not words and career choices to be ignored. Fundamentally, I'm a blue collar worker. I may have stripes on my shoulders when I go to work, but I'm essentially a skilled technical worker, and I'm no different than a welder or a carpenter. I grew up in the steel industry. I born steel-toed boots and a hard hat for many years, and I understand the value of that hard work and those skill sets. I've lived those lives. So when we talk about opportunities and keeping our kids in Pennsylvania, um, and trying to give them the best chance to succeed, let's not be so arrogant, if you will, to say we only need to focus on STEM. We need to focus on all areas of education, and particularly the trade schools. Um, I think that would be a great opportunity, and it would encourage our kids not only to gain an education in Pennsylvania, but hopefully continue to reside in Pennsylvania and stay with their families.
Okay, thank you. 2 minutes, Ethan.
This is a great question because technology is definitely kind. We have jobs that are evolving to the point where this until the kids get out of school. It's unbelievable. VOTEC is probably a great place to start. We need to start focusing on the trades. Everybody else like, hey, Mark, don't you wish you were in the trades because they're starting out at 80, 90, $100,000 a year as a welder. Right now, my brother-in-law who owns Salem Welding in Salem, Ohio, can't find welders. They're not enough of them. There's such a high demand for people in trades. We need to start investing in tech schools and trade schools and build more schools to help more kids make the difference, having a different choice instead of just college. Because in high school, you're one of the most vulnerable and indecisive. I don't know if you remember how we felt when you were in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. This is a great opportunity to experiment. And I think VOTEC is a great place to start. I have the governor's proposed budget here right now, and I made copies for everybody. And 53 billion total spent. Carrie, you're in the back. You can see that pre-K education. We talked about pre-K, and you wanted to address that. $18.9 billion. That's 35.5% of the budget is invested in that. How much of that is really going into VOTEC? You really need to investigate this. That's the future of not only our region, our state, of the United States. Because without these skilled workers, we're not going to compete even locally with other states. The other one you see here is human services, 21.9 billion. And I find it kind of interesting, only the state police only gets 1.36 billion of that. I don't know. I think we have major issues with this entire budget that's being proposed. It's $5 billion more than what it should be. We should get rid of some of that, and we should start spending a little bit of that $18 billion on the trades, period. Thank you.
Thank you. As we're coming to the end, we just have one more major question, and then we'll do something fun at the end.
Only one more.
We go on. I have a million questions, but I'll save those for another time. Okay, moving on. This will be a 3-minute response. Ethan will start, and this is from the last forum. So at the last forum, Ethan, you mentioned the 12-person business advisory council. Can you expand specifically on how they add value to the voters of District 12? And Scott, is this a model for something that you might adopt if elected? 3 minutes.
That's a great. And I think I owe the voters a really good explanation of what I was trying to say. Advisory board is not a good term for this. I'm talking about think tanks. When I say people volunteer their time, I said, look, when I get in there, I'm going to need help. I'm going to need help from people who build $1 million, $100,000, $1 billion companies, and we should all get together in a room to talk about our issues. This is an economic think tank. this is an advisory board. I don't report to anybody but the voters of Pennsylvania, period. That's you, that's everybody in this room, it's anybody that couldn't be joining us here tonight, everybody that's streaming live on Facebook, and everybody that's looking at chat chats, videos, and everybody that's looking online right now, BCRC podcast, that congratulations, you put together. It's very successful. I honestly want to make sure everybody understands. It's not, I don't have all the answers to all the questions. I'm what time of years when it comes to politics. This is my first time. Scott's running 3 or 4 times. It's my first time doing this. I'm gonna need help. I'm gonna need help in there from people that have been there and done that. I'm gonna rely on the business community. There should be other forums too that aren't just economic. We should have teachers. We should have people in real estate. We should have people who are mothers at home. In fact, I talked with Sarah Cardosi, who's all about school choice, and she works for a charter school, and she's talking about moms in America and how important that group is. Now, there's so many different groups and think tanks that we put together. In fact, just this week, we put together a think tank of all of my colleagues like Scott that are running for office to come up with solutions and talk about some of the situations that we have in all of our districts. I am a person who puts people together. I do it for a living, and I'm going to bring all these talents here. I don't need an advisory board to tell me what to do if that's what was being applied. But I do need help. I do need information. I need help from the people who live here, who work here, who raise their family here, and business owners. I led with business owners because that was really easy because I just finished putting that together that day. So it's kind of fresh on my mind. So excuse me if I misspoke, it's an advisory board. I'm talking about an economic think tank where we get together at random occasionally to talk about issues that are relevant to you, from issues that have come up from you that matter most to you, our voters, our constituents, our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 minutes, Scott.
Maybe it's a phraseology, maybe it's just a difference of opinion, a difference of perspective. But as I said earlier, when you talk about boards or commissions, councils, people want to be on those. Well, why do they want to be on? Maybe they do have altruistic motives and they just want to be there to help. Maybe they want to be able to put something on their resume. I think as a responsible representative and a smart guy, if you have an issue that you need education on, you're able to reach out to people in the district. You're able to reach out to voters. If you're going into a specific area, we talked about data centers earlier. I'd like to think that I would have the ability to identify who might be an asset in that field and somebody that can educate me if I feel like I need the education. I appreciate the idea of think tanks and whatever else you want to call them, but honestly, that's not me. The world is your oyster, right? We have access to everyone. We have access to everyone we need. I don't need to put special commissions together or councils or boards and give people secret pledge bins to help them guide me. I can make my own decisions, and I know how to get the resources I need to make smart decisions and get things across the finish line. So, maybe it's just a technique, a difference between the two of us with respect to how we accomplish things. I'm not saying one. I'm just simply saying that's how I operate, and it's been successful for me so far.
Thank you. Okay. Because many people have different opinions on what representatives do. I just want to give a real quick overview of what a PA representative is responsible for. So there's duties are law making, committee work, constituent services, state budget, oversight of state agencies. They represent the district and political party responsibilities. So as a freshman representative, I just want our voters to be fully informed on the actual duties of what a PA representative will do once they get to Harrisburg. So to finish things off, we're going to do a rapid fire round. And it's going to be personal and political. And we will start off with Ethan first. And if I said wine or beer, which would you prefer?
Is that okay?
That's fine. This is kind of just the day to day.
All right, I understand what you're doing. Okay.
If you have boxers or briefs, we got a real problem.
It's just so you feel that I can't use the word humane that looks like just. Okay, Scott, wine or beer?
I don't drink,
Okay,
so there you have it.
all right. Next question, steal of all time.
That's just brutal. Rocky Flyer,
Very good.
veteran.
Ethan,
I would say Justin McQuickie. He's an amazing human being and a follower of Christ and successful businessman and mentor.
fantastic. This is a yes or no question. Ethan first. Shapiro's $25 minimum wage, yes or no?
No,
Scott,
No,
Scott, you start this one. Favorite vacation spot?
too many to choose from. I will say, don't. We're still friends there. That's where family is, and that's still our probably favorite destination. Although Rome is a pretty close second.
Very good. Ethan,
I would say Costa Rica.
okay, very good. Next question, and Ethan will start. When were you asked to run?
Actually, I wasn't asked to run. I wanted to throw my hat in back in 2021. So I called Leslie if she can guide her and said, should I do this? And they said, no, I got shut down. My wife didn't want me to do the so
Okay. Scott,
I believe 2 days before, because it wasn't well known that Representative Schwab was not going to run again, and I certainly hadn't heard that. And I certainly had no intention of ever challenging her primary. But I believe it was 2 days ahead of that it was made clear to me that she was choosing not to run again, and the seat was going to be available. And I was asked if I was still interested in serving the district.
very good. This is the yes or no question. Sue Overs.
No,
Ethan,
only on special occasions, particularly golf.
good, very good, thank you. And then this next one will be, Ethan first and then Scott. Should personal devices be banned, in school K through 8 public schools from Melville?
You asking me for that?
Yeah, Ethan.
I don't think the devices should be banned
Okay,
in schools.
okay. Scott,
K through 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
The next one is, we have 2 retiring county commissioners. If you win, would you support your opponent in the county commissioner race next year? Scott first.
I'm not sure I understand the question. So
So there'll be county commissioners coming open next year.
okay.
If you would happen to win, would you support Ethan in the county commissioner role? And then vice versa.
I must say that I feel I really thought about that, but I would say, Ethan, with your business background and your ability to get businesses together at an executive level, I think I would. That's my answer off the top of my head. Yes.
Ethan?
This is the coolest question. Because I thought to myself, I don't hate Scott. I just don't want to lose. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if he doesn't win? That I still and when he runs as an independent, he might be able to have 3 Republicans at the top of the food chain. I thought about that. I wanted to talk to Scott about that. That's what I wanted to talk about. We never got around to do that. The fact that we're running a clean campaign opens this up for us to support each other or the other person. The other person that's
Supporting me. Okay,
which is cool.
very good. Scott first. Favorite pizza topping?
Afterwards.
Yeah, at least one.
Favorite pizza topping? Topping on pizza.
First of all,
And Bocelli's, I'm sorry, we have Bocelli's. I have a lot of choices.
the Luciano's, Monticello's, Domenico's, you've got Sensi's Pizza in their own. Awesome. Gosh.
What's the best topping?
everything except insurance.
Very good.
So.
Well, you just named off your favorite restaurant in the district. So Ethan, what's your favorite restaurant in the district?
That's a tough question. I just named my top four, but I gotta tell you, Marty's Suburban in the dining room, those huge sandwiches and morning breakfasts on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
There's so many options. I can't pick just one.
Very good. So,
You know, our daughter has worked at Ichiban Steakhouse for 15 years, and Jason Lynn's a great friend of ours, and so yeah, family and friends, and we sure do like sushi down at Ichiban.
very good. With Mother's Day being on Sunday. Last question, Scott first. What is your wife's birthday?
Sorry, what's his birthday?
Uh-oh.
You-
She was born on March 21st.
Ethan.
7/24th, but I have an advantage over Scott that is towards the sea.
Gotcha. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to a close. This is actually our last question. I know that we could probably keep going on, but this will be the last question of the night, and it will come in the form of closing statements. And it will be a 3-minute response. And Scott, you will go first, and then followed by 3 minutes. And please stay within the time.
I'm gonna do the best I can. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. Let me be very clear. I'm asking for your vote on May 19th. I believe my background, my resume, values, ethics. I'm sorry, I think that makes. You know, we have 2 weeks left to determine our future and the future of District 12. And clearly there's some things that Ethan and I agree upon. But I think there are still some stark contrasts as well, and that's what a campaign is for, to point out the contrast. One of those contrasts which we've talked about tonight are our respective campaigns. On one hand, dare I say, you have an establishment choice with money and endorsements from outside the district. Whereas my campaign is a grassroots funded campaign, self-funded, and all my support is within the district. I'm the candidate that, quite frankly, people have entrusted with their lives in my daily job. The United States Air Force has tested me and trusted me for decades. In Harrisburg, special interest groups are going to attempt to test me, and many politicians fail on that test. I will not. If you are a Republican who hates money in politics and you lament that many politicians are all the same, I think you have a rare chance in this election to make a profound statement against the political old guard, special interests, and the status quo. I have achieved success my entire life, and I want to use my skills to help our community achieve great accomplishments. I said before, taking no solicited donations affords me an advantage. I answer to no one but the voters. I'll say it again. You take $100 from somebody, that's a donation. You take thousands of dollars, that's an investment. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. I don't believe the seat is for sale, and I'm not trying to buy it with anything. I'm trying to earn the seat through hard work, through honesty, and knocking on a whole lot of doors. Look, at the end of the day, this is what I want. I want Cranberry to be a little less crowded and a little bit safer. I want Zelienople to have a little less traffic through the middle of town. I'd like Harmony to get their flood problems under control and be a little less drier. I'd like Mars to remain charming and quaint like it's been for the last 50 years. I'd like 228 to be a little bit wider. But most importantly, I want Butler County to remain deeply conservative and never, ever, ever, ever become Allegheny County. Duty, honor, country, a continuing life of service to my family, my community in the United States. You know, that desire to give back is what's always driven me. And it's that commitment to the voters and not accepting investments from big money or PACs. And it shows that I prioritize voters over dollars. I truly only care about and answer to the citizens of Southwest Butler County. So I'm just going to finish by saying once again loudly and plainly, I cannot be bought. I cannot be bullied. I can't be intimidated. I will never accept mediocrity or using the privilege of this office as a stepping stone towards other elections. I am all in for this community. I'm all in for PA 12. This is my home. This is where I intend to stay. And as I said above, tested, trusted. You know, I'm one of us. I'm asking for your help. I'm asking for your energy. And finally, most importantly, I'm asking for your vote on May 19th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Ethan?
Thank you so much for being an excellent moderator. This is the first time I've had a full up interaction with you. Since ever, actually, so I appreciate everything you're doing here. In contrast to Scott, my support is not just in Cranberry Township. It's not just in District 12. It's not just in Butler County. It's not just in Western Pennsylvania. It's not just in Pennsylvania. It's not just in this wonderful northeastern United States region that we live in. Like, I have friends in all parts of the United States, and most of them here close to me. And I will tell you, Allegheny County is not a bad place, by the way. There are a lot of Republicans in Allegheny County. I think what he was referring to was Democrats. I do have Democrat friends as well. I've never want my daughter to marry a Democrat, but I do have Democrat friends. So it was the same way I opened, and that's with my family. At the end of the day, every single issue we talk about tonight, schools, taxes, infrastructure, energy, it's about what we're going to leave for our kids. What are we going to leave for our children? My wife Kim and I are raising two beautiful children, and like I said, it's down the street musical theater, and I made a decision. I wasn't willing to sit on the sidelines anymore and let Harrisburg waste taxpayer money. I want to be honest with you tonight. I mean, running for office is not in my best interest. It is not. I made an announcement, actually, at the Pittsburgh Executive Speaker Series just this past week about the investment that I'm making in my company and the promotion that I'm offering to Jessica, who will be promoted from senior director to vice president, so we can invest and train her to take my position whenever I move on to this office. Should I have the privilege to have your vote tonight? I'm planning. I'm choosing to serve. I don't need another job. My job will be serving you. I've spent years building organizations, making introductions, creating jobs, helping businesses grow, raising money for nonprofits, and I built think tanks together, just like the economic think tank I referenced in my last forum, to help the greater good for universities, for corporations, for my family. In many ways, I'm actually taking a step backward. I'm taking a 70% pay cut. There comes a time in your life when it's time to serve. And that quote came directly from Jim Riley, very good friend of mine. I'm 45, I've been broke twice. Now I'm in a financial space to serve because I've been so successful and I've saved a lot of money. And I have a lot of vehicles in place right now that are going to allow me to do a great job in Harrisburg for you. I'm downgrading from serving organizations and businesses across 13 large counties to focus on the most important communities right here in our backyard. And I care deeply about what's going to happen next in our community. Yes, I've been very successful in fundraising during this campaign. And no, it cannot be bought. Fundraising means people believe in you and your vision and that they're investing in you. It means you know how to bring people together. And frankly, if you can't build support, you'll never accomplish anything in your district. And as I wrap up, I believe in people. I believe in hard work. I believe in family. I'm asking for your vote tonight, not just for me, not just for Maverick, not just for Annie, for your children, your grandchildren, and the future of the communities that we live in and serve. Thank you. God bless you. And just remember how important your vote is on May 19th when you show up. It's a privilege to be here tonight.
Good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you all for attending. I'm sorry. Thank you all for attending. Thank you to Ethan and thank you to Scott and thank you to our wonderful moderator who, at like last week, I say Karen Yacht won the debate last week, and I think tonight John Collins won it. So, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. So interesting debate because it brought up so many issues that are important to us all over the country, not just, and even all over the world. Is talking about the data centers. That is really an issue that we all have to keep our eyes on. I, as you know, come from South Florida, where they're right now very upset about a data center about to go into an area called Loxahatchee. So it is really affecting everybody all over the country. These questions were incredible. And I learned a lot about both of these candidates. Which one do you like better? It's hard to choose. They both have really great heads on their shoulders. However, I think Timko. I just like the way he is. And the self-funded issue is very interesting too. You know, there are a lot of people run for office and getting funding. Oh, my audio. Anyway, you'll just have to listen. Anyway, getting funded to run for office is a big deal. And it's very difficult. And people who are self-funded have enough money to fund their running for office, which also means that they were successful in their lives. So I know it's very interesting. That's what I think, Michael Anthony, as well. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to say ciao for now. It's great to see you all. I hope you enjoyed this debate. And there are Pennsylvania issues for sure, but issues that are important to people all over the United States and indeed the world. All right, you guys. We will see you all on the next Beach Report. Ciao for now.